Okay, in this lesson we're going to review the way to make your lists that are required in your lab, and we're going to talk briefly about the concept of cascading style sheets. So this lesson is going to be a little bit longer than the previous videos because we need to cover a couple of concepts along the way. So we're going to first talk about making lists, and there are two types of lists you can make with HTML. You can make an ordered list using the OL tag, or UL, an unordered list using the UL tag. And the difference between these is if they're going to be numbered or if they're going to be bulleted. You also need to combine a second tag with this to make it work, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And that indicates to the browser which things are designated as items in the list. So let's start out with an ordered list. I'm going to start the tag OL for ordered list, and I'm going to go ahead and give myself a little bit of space and close that tag so I don't forget to do that. And in between these OLs, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to use the LI tag to set up a list item. And this is an indication to the browser really when to go to the next line and add the next thing to the list. So this is the first item. Close that LI tag. Open up a new LI tag. This is the second item. Close that one. And then finally, let's go ahead and just put in a third one. So when it hits these list items, it knows that this will be number 1 in the list, this will be number 2 in the list, and this will be number 3 in the list. Because this is an ordered list, that's why we're going to have numbers. If we want to have unordered lists, we can go ahead and use the UL tag. The UL tag will actually allow us to do bulleted lists if there's not a natural 1, 2, 3, if we don't want them numbered. And again, I'm just going to cheat real quick, and I'm going to put in my closing tag. And then I'm going to copy and paste these list items from my ordered list into my unordered list. Doesn't really matter what the list items are, just as long as they're there. So I'm going to go ahead and save this real quick. And I'm going to switch over to the browser, and I'm going to open up that file, and you can see the difference between the two lists. So this is the first item, this is the second item. Notice it's 1, 2, 3 where the ordered list is, and then below that our bulleted list. Notice the defaults on these lists. Ordered lists automatically have numbering, and defaults automatically have solid circles as their bullet type. So we can change those things using style sheets, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new document real quick because I want to type some things and talk to you a little bit about styles. What we're going to do right now is we're going to start talking about cascading style sheets. This is commonly abbreviated to CSS. And the best way to think about the marriage between CSS and HTML is that cascading style sheets are generally used for decorative or graphic design purposes. If you want to change the font, change the color of something, if you're in general trying to make it pretty, chances are you're going to try to find a style sheet to do that. HTML, on the other hand, is used for putting structural elements on the page. When you add an image, create a table, add a list, and things like that, then you're putting a structural element on the page, and chances are you're going to need an HTML tag. Now, cascading style sheets, it is a little different technology, and it's going to look a little different than the HTML, so let me talk about the generic format. Generally speaking, when you have a property of the page or the item you want to change, you'll type the property, you'll put a colon, and then you'll change the value. So some examples that you might do with text, you might do font-family and change that to Arial, or you might change the color to red. You might want to bold something by changing the font weight to bold. Now, the part of learning cascading style sheets is going to memorize, again, what a lot of these properties are and what the appropriate values are. In this case, we're going to start out pretty simple, and we'll spend a whole lot of time about halfway through the semester really putting some time towards memorizing all the different things that can be done using cascading style sheets. But the one we're going to look at today is going to be the list style type property. And on an order list, we can give it options like upper alpha, which would give us uppercase alphabet characters. So instead of 1, 2, 3, we would have A, B, C. If it's an unordered list, we could have a property such as square, which will change that solid circle bullet to a square bullet. So that's the generic format. Now we're going to use what's called an inline style, meaning that it's going to be tied to an HTML tag. And the effect of that style is only going to be on that tag. So when that tag closes, the style ends as well. There are more broadly used CSS definitions that we'll get to later on, but you can actually define a style that affects everything on the page, and you can take that one step further and you can write a single style sheet that affects everything in a certain website. But right now we're going to work at the lowest level, and the way this is going to work is you're going to have an HTML tag, let's say in this case the P tag, and you're going to use what's called an HTML attribute. We'll see more of these when we get to links and when we get to images. But an attribute is just additional information inside the tag that that the HTML needs to do its job. So the general format is to put in what the name of the attribute is, in this case style, and attributes are always going to be equal to something in double quotes. So in this case, if we wanted to change the font family and the color of this paragraph to Arial and red, we would just go ahead and add those properties separated by a semicolon to that P tag. Now everything in here would be Arial and red. And when we close the P tag, then that actually ends the style associated with the P tag as well. So we can tie the formatting changes to that. And that's what we're going to do with our list style type square, is we're going to go ahead and add that to either the OL or the UL. So I'm going to go ahead and close this down, and we're going to go back to our page that we're working on, and you'll see what I mean. Of course I closed Notepad down, so let me go ahead and open our file again. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do list style type on this OL, remember the ordered list, we're going to do upper alpha. Notice while I'm typing these that it is pretty standard that anytime you want to put a space in when you're defining a style, it actually needs a dash instead. So in this case, we're going to set the style attribute equal to upper alpha, which means when it hits this OL tag here, the closing OL tag, it will stop doing that. And we're going to do the same thing on our UL. We're going to say style is going to be equal to list style type, and in this case we're going to go ahead and change that to square. And same thing, now it will put a square instead of that disk until it reaches the closing UL tag. So let me go ahead and save that, and I'm going to switch over to the browser, and I'm going to reload that, and you'll see the difference. Now instead of 1, 2, 3, we have ABC, and we have square bullets instead. So that is what we're going to accomplish in the first lab. In the next section, we're going to start looking at images and links. So you should go ahead and get started on this as soon as you can.